welcome back to A Window to the North. My name is Sarah and I am an expat. I live in Sweden but am originally from Germany. I've been doing a lot of moving around and I really enjoy the expat life, and I'm passionate about inspiring more people to move abroad and to, take that leap. So today I will share with you 7 things that I think are absolutely essential and that you should do in the first 2 weeks that you are in a new country. If you haven't gotten that far yet, if you're still considering, whether you should move or how you could realize your dream of living abroad, I'll link a video up here about the 7 ideas of how to move abroad, how to make that actually happen. But let's get back to the 7 ideas or the 7 tips of what I think is essential that you should do when you move abroad once you have arrived in your new country within the first 2 weeks. Number 1, get a local SIM card for your phone. Roaming charges, data roaming charges, calling home, all these things are extremely expensive. By the way, turn off data roaming when you move abroad. If you would like to know how to do that, if you need a tip, put a comment below. I'll make a video on that. But generally, you should buy a local SIM card so you can get a local phone number. There are these prepaid ones, meaning you top them up whenever they're empty, so that you won't go broke whenever you make a phone call, and so that you have a local phone number. Depending on the country that you are moving to, this might differ, but here in Sweden, for example, the pay-as-you-go SIM cards do come with data packages. Mine, for example, has a data package of 50 gigabytes. So I've actually, when I moved here, we were not able to get a contract SIM card, so I just never changed from my pay-as-you-go SIM card, and it has a data package of 50 gigabytes, which means that particularly here in my office, I don't even have wireless. I don't have an internet provider. I just use my phone and the data package from my SIM card, turn my phone into a personal hotspot and go online like that. So that's another benefit. If you get one with a data package, you might be able to save or get around buying a separate internet contract. Number 2, depending on where you move, figure out public transport. I know that public transport can be intimidating depending on where you come from and where you move to and your background in usage and experience with public transport, but oftentimes when you move abroad, maybe you don't have the funds to buy a new car or a car in general. Maybe you're not staying long enough to buy a car, or also very important, maybe your driver's license is not valid in that country, which is a kind of bonus tip here. Make sure that your driver's license is valid so that you would be allowed to drive if you chose to do so. Otherwise, like I said, get to know the public transport system. But usually it's also easy to figure that online by Googling, for example, subway map or bus map and your chosen city, so you can see how the subway works. And take some time to explore the public transport system. Maybe try to go to work or university or whatever it is where you have to go on a regular basis, do like a test run. Depending on your chosen destination, on your city, you should also figure out the ticket system. So most bigger metropoles at least have different ticket tiers. So daily ticket, pay-as-you-go, monthly ticket, yearly ticket. Oftentimes they offer reductions, for example, for students. So figure out what would benefit you the most when using public transport, in terms also of finances, because of course these monthly tickets, yearly tickets are often less expensive than if you would pay as you go. And where to buy them. Here in Sweden, for example, ticket sales or also selling machines are being slowly phased out, meaning that these days you can oftentimes only purchase your tickets either in an app, or you can just blip your debit or credit card at the ticket machine and will be charged directly, and so your debit or credit card functions as your ticket. But that's something that you should figure out while you still have the time before you start working. So I hope you have the opportunity to move abroad a few days ahead of when your life starts, so that you can play tourist for a little while and explore and set yourself up stress-free before your daily life starts. Oftentimes, once you've reached your destination, you will have to register with some authority to get your ID card or your proof of residency or whatsoever. Here in Sweden, you have to register with the migration authority to, like I said, get your residency card. Even if that is not the case, I strongly recommend that if you have the possibility to find some or to register and sign up for some kind of of identification that isn't your passport. For me, for example, here in Sweden, I have a residency card that is a form of identification here in Sweden, but is not valid abroad, that I can use here to identify myself everywhere. I used to for a while live in Brussels, in Belgium, as well as in the UK, in London. And back then, London or the UK were still part of the European Union. And me as a German, I used to have a German ID card, which I could use to identify myself there as well. So if you live in the European Union and you do move to another European Union country, you can just identify yourself with your local or with your country's ID card. However, when I was living in the US, I went and got an American driver's license, which was a valid means of identification while I was in the US, basically, or simply just because I was afraid of losing my passport. You know, you go out, maybe you go clubbing, you go to a restaurant, whatever, your handbag gets stolen, so many things that could go wrong, and replacing a passport when you live abroad is a big hassle. Plus, in my case, for example, my visa for the US was glued into my passport, so I really didn't want to lose that. So try to register, see if you can register, if you have to register to get valid identification. And even if you don't, see if there's a way that you could, you know, get around using your passport, taking your passport with you everywhere you go. Number 4, figure out your nearest and closest healthcare provider. If you've watched last week's video, I believe it was, you probably by now have figured out that I am a bit of a fanatic when it gets to making sure that you know where to go if you should need help for your health. And by that I just mean, you know, figure out where you should go if you're sick. What's the process? How do people do in this country? Because honestly, when you are in that situation where you need help, be it that you broke a leg or that you have a flu or whatever, that's the last moment when you want to start trying to figure out where to go to get help. So just, you know, I don't know, check where is your closest doctor. How do you need to register there? For example, again, the example is Sweden here. If you are in Sweden and you don't have a personal number, which you only get if you stay in Sweden for more than a year, you will have a very hard time booking a doctor's appointment. So in that case, you would have to most likely go to the emergency room to get help. So figure out where the emergency room is so that you know what you have to do in case, you know, the worst happens. Number 5, one of my favorites when not only moving to a new country, but also when traveling in general, try something new. Try, you know, go explore at the local supermarket. I feel like I love food in general. I have a background in hotel management. I started my career in hotels, and I'm, you know, really passionate about authentic local cuisine. And one of my favorite things to do, both on vacation as well as when moving somewhere new, is to go around and, you know, test the local delicacies, I guess, or just, you know, test some fun things from the supermarket. I mean, you know, I have a limit, like insects is not on my menu, for example, but, you know, just go explore in the supermarket, see if there's something that looks interesting that you don't know how it tastes. I feel like a lot of things you can learn about people's culture, you know, and that open your mind go through food. So why not, you know, have a fun little moment there. Before we'll go to the last point, which is more of a what not to do in your first 2 weeks when moving abroad. So last of the what to do tips is explore. Be a tourist in your new home. Be a tourist in your new chosen town and country. What I mean is, once your life starts, once you're getting into daily life, you're going to be too busy. You might be tired, you know, you're starting a new job, you're starting university, whatever it is. You're going to have so much mental energy required to just, you know, adjust to the situation that you might not have so much time to explore. So do it now. Get to know your neighborhood. Maybe try and find a little cafe that you like, or a little bar or a little restaurant, something like that. Figure out the grocery situation, like I've said before. Figure out where the next gym is if you are into certain activities. Figure out or build a new routine, because routines and habits, things that you do reoccurringly, can be kind of almost like a security blanket when you start to feel anxious or unhappy or having a bad day. So I encourage you to, you know, explore and start working on building routines that then can help you later on. Before mentioning one thing that you shouldn't do in your first 2 weeks when moving abroad, or preferably not even, the first month or so, find out the trash, mail, electricity, and so on situations. So where's your mailbox? Where do you get your mail from? How is trash pickup organized? For example, almost anywhere in Europe you will have quite rigorous sorting and recycling of trash, so you need to know how to recycle, what to recycle, where to drop off your recycle, because there is quite heavy fines on if you don't recycle appropriately. Okay, so before we get to my bonus point of what not to do the first few weeks of moving abroad, how about you comment down below, I am ready to start my new life. If you enjoyed this video, please also give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. So last point, what not to do in the first few weeks of moving to a new country. And I know this might seem, boring to some, it might seem, a bit counterintuitive, but I would really suggest that you do not immediately start traveling, but instead getting used to your immediate surroundings, exploring your new hometown first and your new neighborhood first before you hop on the next plane or the next train or whatever to go traveling and playing a tourist. Because if you plan to stay in your new destination for a longer time, you should try and take that time to put down some roots. You will have time to travel, and and particularly if you're moving to a new continent and you want to experience everything at once, you want to see everything at once, take a few weeks to try and settle and build roots before you're busy hopping on to the next experience and the next vacation and the next weekend trip. Because believe me, there will, in every expat's life, it's called the expat blues actually, there will be times where you will be unhappy, where you will question your decision of having moved abroad, and the better foundation you have laid for a life, for routines, for habits, for social contacts, and so on in your new country, the bigger the chance that you will easier get over this expat blues.